It's okay if we don't know the way sometimes, because God always knows the way. Right? Think about a time that you may have experienced recently where you were stuck between two decisions. You found yourself in a fork in the road. Or maybe you didn't know what the set of options were. Maybe you experienced the death of a loved one and you were all of a sudden numb and paralyzed. And you didn't even know how to get out of bed every morning, let alone what to do with your life next. Maybe you have an idea of what you want to do, and maybe you've seen progress, but all of a sudden now self-doubt is starting to creep in. And you're doubting your progress, and you're doubting whether or not you're moving in the direction that you need to go. These are just some examples of the ways where we sometimes find ourselves in a trap, and we don't know how to get out, and we don't know what is expected from us, what we need to do. And sometimes we can take that in the wrong way, and we can enter a state of depression. We can become incredibly sad. We can become hopeless, and it can just take us down a very dark road. But the purpose of this video is to take a more positive spin on it, to not be overcome by depression, to not be overcome by anxiety or sadness whenever we do reach a point in our life where we simply don't know what to do. Because inevitably there will come a time, and for many of us, there will come several times where we don't know what to do. We don't know what's the right decision. But thankfully, in these moments, and in truly every moment in life, there is always a way out. There is always an answer. It just won't come from our mind. It will come from God. You see, we all live our lives from a very limited perspective, from the perspective of just this one person, Najim in this case, or yourself in this case. And we see the whole world through this lens. And of course, sometimes it's hard to live in someone else's shoes, right? You can only do that for so long, but at the end of the day, we're only occupying one body, right? Even though we are all part of one collective spirit, one collective soul. So naturally, we are predisposed to kind of see things from one lens. But when we do that, then we sometimes lose sight of the fact that, God sees all of the lenses. He sees all of the outcomes. He's the one that's moving people in and out of our life. He's the one that's presenting opportunities and challenges in our life. So if you are able to identify or connect on that deeper level, then you will see that for every problem, there is a solution. For every fork in the road, there is a path that you need to take. For every moment of uncertainty, there is a moment of clarity, a moment of understanding. And more often than not, those moments are put in your life for a reason, right? It's not like these are bad things and you're trying to avoid them and run away from them, right? Those moments are put in your life for a reason, either to give you some sort of a lesson, to help you awaken, to help you grow, to help you develop a resilience and an endurance that probably you didn't know you had before. So it's not like we should shun or ignore or try to run away from those moments as quickly as possible. But the purpose of this video is to really help us hone in on this idea that it's okay to not know. It's okay to not have the answer to everything. I know our minds try to tell us that we have to have everything figured out. For a lot of us, the idea of uncertainty, the idea of risk, the idea of not knowing is probably the scariest thing ever. In fact, that's why I think a lot of us probably fear death. Not so much that things end, because probably when we die, there's no more thoughts to begin with. And if there's no thoughts, there's no fear. So in actuality, it's not the fear that we're afraid of, it's the uncertainty of it's not the death that we're afraid of, it's the uncertainty of death that we're afraid of. What comes after it? How does it ultimately happen? What will ultimately become of me? Right? It's the uncertainty around it. Same is true like if we're about to give a speech in front of people and we're not very good public speakers. Chances are 9 times out of 10, we will deliver an amazing speech. But the anxiety that creeps in days before that speech can be often way worse than actually getting up there on stage and speaking in front of people, right? Because we have this uncertainty, we have this fear, and this uncertainty is what is actually worse than reality. So when we think about it from this standpoint, we have to be gentle with ourselves. We have to take the pressure off ourselves. We have to, love ourselves to the point where we realize that, it's okay to not know every single detail. It's okay to not know every single answer. As long as we trust in higher power, as long as we trust in God. Because God will know the direction, right? If you're driving on a highway that you've never driven on before, you don't have your GPS, you don't have your phone, you don't have anything. And you're driving in the dark, right? And you don't know what exit to get off on. You don't know what junction to take. You don't know what freeway to get on. But just imagine for a second that you're not the driver of this car. You're the passenger. God is the driver. God knows what roads you need to take. He knows what exits you need to get off on. He knows what lies in the road ahead. Even if it's dark, even if there's a storm going on, even if there's so many different obstacles and turns and blind spots, etc., that you and I probably cannot see very far out into, He knows. Believe me, He knows. And it's a matter of bringing this perspective, bringing this understanding into our daily life. It's not that we have to necessarily channel God, right? Because God is already there. God is already working through us. But it's a matter of working in concert with God. It's a word that I used in another video that I did recently, co-creating with God, right? You are in charge of your life to a degree. God is also in charge of your life. In fact, God has more control. So it's a matter of kind of balancing. It's this dance between what you actually do, but then ultimately relinquishing all control to God, surrendering to God. Because that is when you can truly live your life with complete and 100% clarity. Even if you're diagnosed with a terrible disease, even though you might be hit with a terrible tragedy, you'll still have that assurance. You'll still have that peace and understanding that it's going to be okay. Maybe right now it's not, and that's fine, right? What I'm suggesting here is not to say that all of your challenges you can just brush away. That when you become spiritually awakened, that there will never be another challenge that will affect you again. What I am saying, however, is that if there are these challenges, then you won't be pulled back into this dark pool of grief. Instead, there will be a sense of peace with it, a sense of comfort. That, okay, you know what? Even if I missed my exit, guess what? God's the driver. He'll put me back on the track. He'll pull me back where I need to be. Maybe I needed to take this detour. Maybe I needed to kind of find myself lost for a little bit so I can actually find who I am, find my purpose, find who I am beneath all of these layers that I've created. So the moral of the story here is there will come many times in our life where we don't know. Of course, there are a lot more times that we do know, which is great, but it's usually through adversity that we find God and not through when things are going well. And there's a reason for that. Because when things are going well, we sometimes kind of overinflate our role and influence when things are going well. We think that we're the ones that brought all of this goodness and blessings and joy in our life. But when things are going bad, we don't necessarily sometimes attribute that to ourselves. We attribute that to outside forces, to external forces. Oh, this girl broke my heart. Therefore, I'm unhappy right now. Oh, I got fired from this job. Therefore, I'm unhappy right now, right? We sort of project and externalize all the negatives, but we take all the credit for the positives. And so that's why I think God creates adversity and creates challenges in our lives to remember Him in that moment. Not that we should remember God just when things are bad, but again, it's usually through those moments of challenge and adversity and not knowing that we're stimulated more to discover the higher power, to connect with our true selves, to ultimately get out and to awaken. right? If you listen to a lot of the kind of personal life stories of a lot of spiritual teachers, most of it started from adversity, from not knowing. Buddha lived an amazing, lavish life in the palace as the prince, but, you know, still suffering, still seeing suffering everywhere around him. So it's a challenge and adversity that drove him to seek enlightenment. Rumi, very knowledgeable, very wise, an accomplished jurist and Islamic scholar, but didn't really know and connect with God on that deeper level before he experienced this transformation. So there's a lot of examples. I don't want to list all of them here, but you can just see it for yourself that it's in those moments where we're really challenged that we start to really try to connect with God. And hopefully we get to a point where we not only just remember God through the bad times, but we remember him through the good times. We trust him throughout the entire arc of our life. That is true understanding. That is true purpose-filled living. And it will only happen the more we connect with God, the more we develop a real relationship with him. And then we will never have to worry about not knowing anymore. In fact, there will actually be a little bit of a peace or liberation from not knowing, right? Because we always have this pressure on ourselves that we need to know everything. We need to have all the answers. We need to find all the solutions. And that could be overwhelming. That truly is overwhelming to know all the answers. Let God be the one that is handling it. There's this beautiful line from I think it was Ramana Maharshi's Who Am I teaching, where he basically says that, when you step onto a train, you're not holding your luggage on your head anymore. You're putting it on the train. The train carries all weights. It carries not only the weight of the people, but also the weight of the cargo. And the train is like God. God carries all of our weights. He carries all of our pressures. He carries all of our troubles. So when you are in the presence of God, or when you find yourselves inside the train, then you don't need to carry the baggage anymore. You don't need to carry your problems anymore. Put it down on the train. Put it down on the shoulders of God. And God will be the one burdened. God will be the one that will be carrying this burden. That is true faith. That is true trust and alignment and love for God. So I wanted to kind of just end it there. I know there's a lot more that we can talk about, but hopefully this video gives you a little bit more of a reassurance that everything will be fine if you don't know. And there's actually great beauty in not knowing. There's a great beauty in just putting your baggage down on the train and letting the train handle everything, letting God handle everything, and just going with the flow, seeing where life takes you. Yes, it's okay to have plans. It's okay to have ideas. It's okay to have goals to a degree. But life is much more than that. Life is much more than just having a clear black and white vision for your life. It's about going with the flow. It's about seeing where it takes you, seeing how it develops you, seeing how it molds you, seeing what challenges ultimately shape you. And when you can trust God, then this journey becomes a lot more easier and it becomes a lot more enjoyable. And it doesn't become like this friction. It doesn't become like this sad tale of I'm struggling and life is not fair and I don't know what to do. It becomes more of a joyful dance, more of a peaceful dance. And that's what I hope that we can all take away from this video. So thank you all for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to drop those in the comments below. Don't also forget to check out some of the other videos, and please drop a like. It really does help when you guys share the videos, when you guys subscribe, when you guys like. I don't do really a lot of marketing, barely at all, to be honest with you. I kind of just like to let the work do the talking for itself. But I think the more people that can come across this content and other content as well, I'm not saying that this is the holy grail of spirituality, but I feel like the more we can consume this kind of content and think on it and reflect on it and live by it, the more we can all be gentler, more peaceful, and more loving human beings, the more we can live a more enlightened life. So I really do thank you all for your support. It means the world to me. It's the reason why I continue doing these videos and the reason why I enjoy doing these videos. So thank you very much, and I will see you hopefully very soon.